The orphan girl that no one knew about went on to become the biggest fashion influencer in the whole world. Join us in today's video as we'll tell you the story of Coco Chanel, the orphan girl who changed the definition of fashion itself. Also, before we begin, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more business stories, and with that being said, let's begin. Now, if anyone had asked Coco Chanel, the world's most influential fashion designer, she would never admit about her early life after she had reached great celebrity status. Nobody was even supposed to know that her childhood was spent in one-room hovels and her adolescence in an orphanage. But thanks to numerous biographers who have dived into her past, including a couple of her close friends, people now know the story in much detail. The story how Chanel rose from dire poverty to a pinnacle in the society, even becoming the longtime lover of Britain's richest man of that time, the Duke of Westminster, and a friend of infamous Winston Churchill, both before and after his legendary wartime leadership. But let's start from the start. As we all know, she was born in 1883 at Saumur in the Loire Valley, that beautiful stretch of river famed for its lovely chateau erected in the 16th and 17th centuries. But soon the family was on the move, to one village in the poor Orphan region and then another. Her last and longest childhood home was in Prevalent, a bustling market town in Parisian department. Gillarde means spirited, aptly for the young girl who showed such spirit when she'd grown up. But during those days, with not even a glimpse of such luxury, it was here that the family of 3 sisters and 2 brothers all lived in one room, in which Chanel's mother died of tuberculosis when she was barely 12. Her father could not take care of his family, who pushed them out, with Gabrielle and her sisters in an orphanage. He never came back. For a little Gabrielle it seemed the end of the world. But she came out of the orphanage 6 years later with some basic skills, and most importantly, a burning desire to succeed. Later in life, Coco never used the word orphanage. Instead, she said that her father took her to stay with unmarried aunts who always dressed in gray and black. My aunts were good people, but absolutely without tenderness. She would say I was not loved in their house. She told the girls at the orphanage that her father had gone to America to seek his fortune and would come to get her as soon as he was rich. But in reality, after he dropped her off, Coco never saw him again. She lived here in Orphan. Orphan was nothing but a monastery. Coco and the other orphans wore white blouses and black skirts. The nuns had white wimples and black skirts. But the nuns' cleanliness and stark simplicity pleased Coco at her young age. Fresh linens piled in high cupboards and smell of the yellow soap the girls used to scrub their faces left lasting impressions on her personality. In the monastery, the orphans followed a strict routine from early mass to bedtime prayers. 6 days a week, they went to classes. In the evenings, they learned to sew simple things such as hems on sheets for their trousseaux, collections of household linens assembled for when they married. Every Saturday, they hiked through the woods after church. Though Coco detested the regimen, prayers silenced prayers. She hated to kneel in the abbey, and she made up stories to tell the priest in confession. Here, Coco stayed for almost 7 years. During holidays, she and her sisters visited their paternal grandparents in Malines, and their aunts Louise and Adrien in Varennes. Louise, the oldest of the family of 19 children, was married to a railroad station master, but Aunt Adrien was just a year older than Coco, and Coco really adored her. They looked like sisters and pretended they were. At night, they shared an attic bedroom in Varennes and talked till dawn. As teenagers, they secretly read romance novels that were published in installments in the paper. The stories, such as 2 Little Vagrants, told of poor girls who became rich, elegant ladies. Those novels taught me about life. As Coco explained that these stories nourished her sensibility and her pride. She smuggled the romances back to Orphan, where pulp fiction was absolutely forbidden, and hid them in the attic. Once, she slipped pages into her notebook and copied excerpts during a creative writing test. After her teacher read her essay, she made Coco confess about her private library and took the romances away. Coco, right there in monastery, longed for beautiful clothes and was captivated by a description of a heroine's lavender dress with ruffles. While visiting her aunts, she asked for permission to have the local seamstress make a dress for her. But what her aunts didn't know was that Coco gave the seamstress detailed instructions for whipping up a dress like the one in the novel. On a Sunday morning, Coco put on the form-fitting dress and came downstairs to go to mass. Her aunt Louise took one look at her and ordered her to go upstairs and change into proper clothing. In those times, girls of her age were to wear modest tailored suits without ribbons, ruffles, or saucy purple slips. Despite Coco's tears, the lavender creation went back to the dressmaker. But the allure of ruffles stayed with Coco. In 1901, at the age of 18, Chanel was released from the orphanage and sent to a Catholic boarding house in the town of Malines, about 240 kilometers northeast of Aubagne. Here, she joined her aunt Adrienne, who was actually only slightly older than her, and went to work in a haberdashery as a seamstress. Thus began her adult life in tandem with the dawn of the 20th century. But how did this interest sprouted? Well, bored and miserable at the convent, Chanel studies the nuns' black and white robes, becoming fascinated by the colors that would become her signature style later on. Every day, she looked at those black and white, and it became the fetish colors of Chanel. And in those times, it was revolutionary to put a dress in black, because black was for the men or for the people who lost somebody. Later in days, as an old woman describing her beginnings, Coco Chanel once said, "I was able to start a high fashion shop because two gentlemen were outbidding each other over me," as it is also shown in her movie. At the cabaret, she meets the wealthy man who will become her first lover, then moves into his country mansion. Fontaine describes the relationship between Chanel and the gentleman as either that of a court scene, or depending on how piercingly you look at a war. In the books and these films like Coco Before Chanel, we watch as these men and others help transform the penniless, canny Mademoiselle Coco into the famous, fabulous designer who transformed ladies' fashion. Chanel soon meets Arthur Boyd Capel, a dark and handsome British polo player who becomes the love of her life. He takes her to the sea at Diawil, where Chanel is disgusted by the fussy, elaborate, and dull fashions that the women wear. She looked at all these women on the beach, and she said that it's like she's in a pastry shop. Surrounded by beauties, whose hats looked like cakes, Chanel was driven to design a trimmer silhouette. She cuts Capel's clothes down to fit her, and starts dressing more simply in spare colors. Other women then noticed Chanel's kick, beautiful style, and began to buy her clean-cut, simple clothes. Just as her gentleman friends do, these wealthy women helped create the designer who would become known as Coco Chanel. Ultimately, as Fontaine says, it wasn't Chanel's appearance or even intelligence that propelled her towards fame. It was her canny charisma. She had a very free personality, says she was not afraid of anything. And when Chanel died in 1971 at the age of 87, she was a legend. Chanel was a survivor, and it showed in every part of her life. She survived abandonment, fought poverty, and the loss in a car crash of Capel, her true love. In the end, she saw people with money and power showering love on her designed clothes. She achieved something which she never even dreamt of. And the reason was nothing but her attitude of not giving up over anything. She fought for her freedom and fame. She was a fighter, and she will be remembered as the same. That's it for the day, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you have ever owned a Chanel or even dreamt of buying one, let us know about the feeling in the comments below. Also, subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon for more amazing business biographies. And we will see you in the next one.